Why would I do a review of the Nothing Phone 3A in my boring studio when I could do it here? I'm Jason Howell, and this phone right here gets noticed. This is the Nothing Phone 3A, sells for $379, and I've actually taken this phone all over the map, from the vineyards of Sonoma County, where I am right now, to Barcelona for Mobile World Congress. And I gotta say, it has blown me away in almost every case. Almost. And you gotta start with the design, right? Because within the mid-range, you've never seen a device that looks like this. It's a very distinct visual identity that Nothing is, at this point, really known for. Transparent casing, just very refreshing to look at. It shows some internal components, though not the really good stuff like microchips or memory cards. But what you do get are these Glyph LEDs that surround the camera bar that brings a little bit of function to the transparency. So these will light up and you can set it all up for call alerts, music playback, which is what you're looking at, volume level, timers, even notifications. And that camera bar is pretty unique as well. It kind of protrudes a little bit, but it's like an ease ramping style of protrusion. 3 sensors there. Glass panel, the previous version had plastic back here, so depending on where you sit on the glass versus plastic debate, that either makes you happy or not so happy. And it does have a polycarbonate frame around this. The buttons that you see here are very uniform, flat, and very similar, except for this button, which is the button that kind of calls itself out as something different. This is the Essential Space button, and I'm gonna tell you a little bit about that here in a second. Now, as for the display, it's a 6.77-inch LTPO OLED, which is really great in sunlight. It actually has 3,000 nits of peak brightness, and I was never battling the sunlight when using this outside. Even better, this has 2160 hertz of pulse width modulation dimming. And you might wonder what that is. It's a flashing of the display, which helps for extending the battery and performance of the display. And many OLED devices have this feature. The problem is some of them flash so slow, like the Galaxy S25 Ultra, a much more premium phone. It flashes at 480 hertz, that people often associate it with eye aches and eye strain and stuff. You aren't gonna get that with the Nothing Phone 3A because this flashes so much faster. Honestly, at the end of the day, this is a really fantastic display on this phone. Now, powering the Nothing Phone 3A is Android 15 under the hood, actually with the Nothing OS 3.1 layer. And I have it set up to be more of a vanilla approach, which is kind of my preference, but you can set this up so that it's filled to the brim with Nothing's original widgets laid out on the home screen. In fact, I can show you Nothing has integrated Nothing's brand of lock screen widgets ahead of the big changes coming to Android 16, where they're gonna enable lock screen widgets once again for everyone. Overall, I'd say it's a pretty clean, minimal build. Things are stylized a little bit, but not overly so. And so you kind of get a little bit of Nothing's unique aesthetic throughout, but more or less, if you want to keep this vanilla like I have, you absolutely can. 3 years of updates, 6 years of security updates, not top of the line as far as the update promise is concerned, but definitely not horrible either. But the software feature that you really need to know about, and that Nothing wants to make sure that you know about because they made a button for it that stands out from the rest of the buttons on the device, is Essential Space. And I think Nothing has taken a real restrained approach to artificial intelligence on this device at a time where all smartphone manufacturers are hitting you over the head with all the AI features. What exactly is Essential Space? Well, if I tap it once, it takes a screenshot and it gives me a little box down here to enter in a text note. Tap and hold it, it takes that screenshot, and now it's audio recording everything that I say. It'll continue recording until I let go of the button. Now it files that away into what Nothing calls the Essential Space. And what happens to that audio file is it gets automatically transcribed on the device by AI. And so then if I tap this button twice, 1, 2, it takes me to my Essential Space where all of those notes are laid out. Now, I will say it's a little confusing when you get in here. It's a little cluttered and it can be kind of hard to find things because everything kind of looks very similar. But if during my audio recording I say, remind me at this time to do whatever, that gets filed away in here as a reminder, and then you'll get a notification later for it. And what I found is if you commit to Essential Space, and when you have random moments where you're like, oh, I need to remember to do this, or, oh, I have this really good idea, I want to write it down. Instead of writing it down, or instead of opening up a Google Keep and punching it in long form, I just got in the habit of tap and holding, taking that screenshot and just verbalizing it. And over time, it made that actionable. It filed that away. You can even sort within the essential space into collections, so you can put all of a certain type into a single collection. And I really found once you commit to using it, then you really start to see how beneficial it actually is. And quite frankly, I wish that my Pixel 9 Pro had this special button with an essential space-like feature on it that's so dang easy to use. You can use it even from the lock screen. And speaking of lock screen, when I go to the lock screen, I have this little nothing widget. It's an essential space widget that will tell me if I have something upcoming that's stored inside of essential space. I have to say, this is a really great feature, and I'm excited to see where nothing goes with it, because they've already said, you know, it's not meant to do a heck of a lot right now, but they've got ideas on how to build it out to be even better than it already is. Now, where the mid-range roots really begin to show is the camera system. And I'd say in general, when you have very well lit subjects and they aren't moving at all, you'll get pretty decent output out of the camera on the Nothing Phone 3A, but it doesn't have optical image stabilization. That's a big problem. It means any sort of movement is going to result in a little bit of blur, and I noticed that in a lot of the pictures. The ultra wide on board is great when you're looking at it on the device, but when you pull that onto a desktop computer with a larger monitor, you start to really see the limits of the 8 megapixel sensor that's there. Also a 2x telephoto optical lens, which I love a good telephoto lens. You can actually crop it to 4x and get extra extension at lossless quality. But again, it lacks a little bit of dynamic range, especially when you pull it onto a larger screen display. You're going to really notice that some of the skies just completely blow out and you lose that detail in the sky compared to like the cityscape below. And then finally, low light performance is really hindered, I think, by the lack of optical image stabilization. So you gotta be really still. Ultimately, this is not a camera forward mid-ranger. Battery-wise, I gotta say, that's another standout feature of the Nothing Phone 3A. 5,000 milliamp hour battery, which lasts around a day and a half. Definitely got that a few times, even while I was wandering the halls of Mobile World Congress, and I think that's saying something. Also 50-watt wired charging, which happens to be 2 times faster than my normal phone, the Pixel 9 Pro, which is well more than twice as expensive as the Nothing Phone 3A. So when it comes to battery, you're not gonna have any battery anxiety. Really happy about that. So overall on the Nothing Phone 3A, I think the camera system is the only true limitation that I've found. A wonderful design, the display is excellent, the software that's running is vanilla and thoughtfully done, the battery is extra powered, I mean, excellent battery. They all knock it out of the park. And I think for that reason, this is a really strong mid-range device that's kind of making a statement if you're actually using it. You can upgrade also to the Nothing Phone 3A Pro. That addresses some of the camera quibbles that I had with a 3x periscope lens. That's definitely an upgrade. That's $459. You got to pay a little bit more for that phone. But the Nothing Phone 3A, I think, is a winner. And I'm curious to know, like, does this satisfy for you in the mid-range to have something this stylish and all of those bonuses while sacrificing the camera? Leave a comment down below and let me know. And thank you for coming to Sonoma Park with me today on such a beautiful day to take a look at the Nothing Phone 3A. We'll see you next time.